I'll give you a tour of our chicken tractors and how they're built. They're built based off Joel Salatin's version that he kind of pioneered 40 some odd years ago. The original ones were 10 by 12, built to hold 70 to 80 broiler chickens on grass. They're portable. The idea behind them is to have the birds outside on grass, and since a broiler chicken doesn't roam too much, you take the grass to him. So each day these sheds are moved forward, the length of them. That way it gives the broilers fresh access to grass as well as their feed, water, etc. Versus having them raised in a confinement type system where they're not outside eating bugs and whatever else they find. The reasoning behind that is the meat quality and just the general husbandry of the birds. It's all geared toward niche marketing, direct to consumers that are looking for alternatives to industry raised confinement barn poultry housing. So we have several of these, as you've seen in the previous videos. So I'm going to give you a quick overview of how we build ours that are kind of different. One, we use all 2x4 lumber. It's all reclaimed, recycled lumber. The original ones are made out of 2x lumber or 1xs. The idea is to make them light so you can move them by hand. We move these with the four-wheeler. A garden tractor would move them as well. You can move them by hand, but you wouldn't want to move too many of them. They are heavy. But I built them to withstand wind. As everybody knows, doesn't take much for a derecho to ruin a farm and have you start over in different directions. So I built them heavy enough, and then so that they stay put. And also, instead of using chicken wire, I use 1x2 galvanized welded wire. Makes it harder for the raccoons to dig through them. And the idea is hopefully they will stand up and last a little longer. The steel is all recycled building tin. The original versions used aluminum. One, they're lighter and they also reflect the heat better, but we didn't have any of that, so that's what we used. These are basically half size. They're 6x10s. And the reasoning behind that is when I started, I was only going to start with 25 broiler chickens, and these actually work better, and I'll explain a few reasons why. So we'll put 25 to 30 broilers in here. That gives them 2 to 2.5 square feet per head, which when they are mature and about 8 pounds at 7 or 8 weeks, they kind of fill this up to the point of you almost would want to move them twice a day during that last week. The feeder is a homemade feeder, 5 feet long. It's a rain gutter. 3.5, 4-inch rain gutter. That'll hold 10 or 12 pounds of feed. The little part on the end is for grit. This feeder will only need filled once a day up until about the last 2 weeks, and then basically twice a day filling them. So the idea is kind of once a day doing the feeding and watering and moving. So if you had any more birds in here, you'd have to feed them twice or have another feeder. The waters are Plasson broiler drinkers. They're usually found in modern broiler houses that still use those type of waters. They're fed via gravity from a 5-gallon bucket. And again, 25 broilers will drink a 5-gallon bucket of water in a day. And as they get those last week, 10 days, they'll start going through 2. So the original ones that have twice the broilers in them, twice the size. We're still using a 5-gallon bucket. I wonder how many times a day they have to fill that water. But 25 broilers will go through a 5-gallon bucket once they reach maturity. The backs are open. The extra piece of tin on it goes on the back. So in the spring and fall, we'll put the backs on them just to prevent some extra wind and cold. We get along all right heat wise with these. There is enough air movement to them. Unless the broilers are really big and almost market weight and it gets to be 100 and some degrees out and no wind, then we have some minor problems. We might lose a bird or two, but overall they do quite well in them. Like I said, we move them with the 4-wheelers. We've got chains on the front. We do have our door hinged. The original version is they're just removable. They sit on top. The hinge just makes it easier that the door stays where it's supposed to. I do need to put one more hook right here to hold the door down, and then since we started with just bungee straps, so we have one on that. The bungee straps are all kind of seen their better day, so they've been gradually replacing them with new ones. To build a new one of these 6x12 or 6x10, I should say, with all brand new material, will cost around $300, and this is 2022. We built these for a fraction of that. The screws and the nails we had to buy, and the wire, and of course the hinges and stuff. But all the lumber and the steel we've repurposed, so we can build them for a fraction of that. These sheds will pay for themselves in the first group. And you can, the way we do it and the way a lot of other people do it is, instead of raising, let's say 100 broilers a year and raising them all at once, we raise them in 4 or 5 groups throughout the summer. So from May through October, the shed can turn 5 times. So you don't need the infrastructure investment to raise several hundred broilers a year. So each one of these sheds, if you start as soon as the weather permits, can run 5 groups. That's 125 broilers per shed. So you don't need, basically you need a fifth of the feeders, the waters, the housing. Same way with our brooder house. So they're always full throughout from May through into October. But it's just simple construction. They're 26 inches tall because that's how tall or how wide a piece of steel is. If you made them 2 feet tall, like the original versions, the steel would have to be cut, and I didn't want to cut any more than I had to. The wire all works out, so it's 6 foot this way, because I had a bunch of 12-footers, and then since my roll of wire was 4 feet, that's 4 feet. So after I got the first one built, the rest of them all put together really fast. I can build one of these in a day, plus doing all my other stuff, so 5-6 hours. The hardest part, what takes us the longest, is finding the lumber. We have a pile of lumber in a shed, and so to sort through it and find the right boards, and then they're all various lengths, and to get the best use out of all of them with the minimal waste, and then the last 2 sheds I built, we started to make lumber out of 2x10s, 2x12s, and ripping them down. So other than putting a number on the front of them, we put numbers on them to for keeping track of how many birds are in there, death loss, feed intake, and it's also easier when somebody else does chores for me, that if there's an issue, they can just say there's number 6 or number 7, water's leaking or water's plugged up or something, instead of that shed the third one down. So we just put numbers. Our friend Jacob has a metal cutting business, and so a plasma cutting type deal, and so he, on his little scrap corners, he'll cut out numbers for me. So I got some other ones I never got put on, so we're gonna fill in the gaps. But that's our broiler tractors. They're portable and movable. Pick them up on, put them on a trailer, and move them to some other place if you wanted to. Low cost, low investment. We only use them, like I said, spring, summer, and fall. Wintertime, with some modifications, you could use them in the wintertime. Some of our other ones, the bigger ones that I originally built, we might use them in the winter, and we'll put curtains or something on them to keep the weather out. But otherwise, this one's going to be ready to pull out and put in line, because we got brothers that need to go in it. So thanks for watching. The questions, comments, and all that fun YouTube stuff as always. We'll see you guys next time.